Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the SCS Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the SCS Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Rob likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. Scott Rob joining you guys tonight here on this. Well, it's been probably the most beautiful day that we've had in this area for about 4 or 5 days now.
Oh, yeah.
Coming off, I'm like everybody else. I don't like them storms no more than anybody else does. Makes me nervous, makes me antsy, and
I was in the basketball gym. I didn't hear a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't have a lot here. I know Lafayette took some serious damage. We had a tree here in the neighborhood. I know my sister-in-law tried to get out of the cul-de-sac and wound up having to cut down one of the side streets because we had a tree fall over there that was blocking the road. They were out fixing that night. There was some pretty hairy times as it went through. Now, we didn't get hit near like the places that always do, Madison County, Jackson County, all up through Alabama and over around Monteagle and stuff like that. But still, thoughts and prayers to anybody out there that dealt with all that, because that's tough.
But what was so amazing about how fast that was coming and how much there was of it, boy, right behind it, this weather right here broke loose. It was sitting beautiful. Right behind it.
Beautiful. I mean, I took, had to have, my wife had a little cleanup surgery done this week, and I had to have her early morning Friday, had to have her at the doctor, and watched all this move through on Friday, and the next thing we know, we get up, well, and really even Friday afternoon, there was a stretch for about 3-4 hours when it was gorgeous outside.
After the storms had passed.
And then it all blew back through again, one last time, kind of one last hurrah. The winds, Friday night were pretty hairy, but the last 2 days have been great. I had a chance to sit here, taking care of her, but I've got a chance to watch a lot of golf this weekend, watch the first F1 race this morning, watch some college basketball, watch some spring training baseball. I mean, it's been a little, even some NBA. I mean, it's been a fun sports weekend.
Speaking of college basketball, 2:10 remaining in the first half. Mocs ahead of Wofford, 33-32.
Big difference in that boy coming back there in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't win a ball game with him out of the lineup.
And I believe this is a semifinal game. And, hey, Lady Mocs.
Lady Mocs.
Well, it's not Lady Mocs anymore, but we're going to call them Lady Mocs.
What do we call them?
It's the Mocs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We don't
the women's team, Southern Conference champions.
Okay. And a little bit about...
It's amazing.
And a little bit about that situation. Also... Virginia Tech Hokies, I call them Hokies, win their first ever ACC title. A good friend of mine and friend of the show as well, strength coach extraordinaire Greg Warner sits on that bench, and that's where the assistant coach came from last year that runs the Lady Mocs, or the Mocs.
The Mocs.
Matter of fact, I was sitting in
a
hotel in Dayton, Tennessee about a week or so ago, and watched them beat North Carolina at the buzzer in Chapel Hill women's game, and so
they've had
they're like 23-4 right now, or something like that,
or maybe better than that. Possibly this got them a 1 seed. They were sitting. I was talking to him the other day. They was 8th ranked in the country, and he felt like that they were a given 2 seed, but they were concerned that they were going to fall in South Carolina's bracket.
Yeah,
this possibly put them a 1 seed. And get them out of that situation at least. Great team by the Virginia Tech Hokies, and again,
kind of come out of nowhere the last couple of years.
Come a long ways, and their 2 best players are returning, so they have a good team again up next year.
I'm telling you, I think the trend. In college basketball may be about to finally start making the change back in a direction that we've all kind of hoped that it would the last few years, and that is I don't think you're going to see the mass amounts of one and dones because there's going to be so much more disbursement, because there's now with NIL, it doesn't matter where a kid goes as a one and done, he can go anywhere in the country, so
still have some
pocket change. So why not go here, there, anywhere? And so
you're more a basketball fan than I am, Rusty. But I was listening to them talk about this the other day about the NFL and the NBA drafts and how they differ from rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're in that in the NBA, you don't need to bother because you're not playing.
Yeah, you shouldn't even show up.
How important rounds 2, 3, and 4 are in the NFL about really getting.
That's where the rosters are built in the NFL. The NBA now is a 2-round draft. That's it.
Yeah, has been for a while.
But even if you're second round, you're not playing based on what they're saying.
And there have been some second rounders have become all-star performers and stuff like that. But for the most part,
what's the max?
The majority they're not.
What's the max roster in the NBA? It's is it 14, 12? Yeah, you're talking about 32 teams in the league, 12 players a team, roughly 350 guys ish. Mm-hmm. Is it? That's right. It. And the thing about it is the guys like LeBron and KD and guys like that. They're playing because of the medicine, the modern miracles of modern medicine and all the stuff that they can take and the workouts that they do and everything. It's nothing for these guys nowadays to play 15 and 20-year careers.
And I really laugh a lot and love the way he's plain spoken in Charles Barkley.
Oh yeah.
And he was talking the other day. You mean to tell me you're going to make $40 million a year and you can't play 3 or 4 times a year? A week.
Yeah.
You got to take off.
Yeah.
And that load management thing that they're talking about now, that's gotten a little bit out of hand.
It has.
Because they talk about how expensive those tickets are. Hard-earned people come to watch that ball game tonight. They get there and
I'll give you.
Are playing.
I'll tell you right now, I got tickets to go. We're going to be in Atlanta this upcoming Saturday for Celtics Hawks. And
you prepared for disappointment?
I'm telling you right now, if I walked in that arena and Jason Tatum sat for the Celtics, my daughter would be crushed because she's been looking forward to this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and she thinks Jason Tatum hung the moon, which I'm having a hard time with as I sit here in my Kentucky jacket talking about a dookie. But
That's a perfect situation.
Yeah,
for him to possibly sit road game,
of course, against a low team heading into the playoffs.
That's a perfect setting.
It's no different. We went and saw years ago. I remember going to St. Louis to see the St. Louis Blues and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it was the year that Mario Lemieux made his comeback. And we just so happened to go to St. Louis on one of the nights when Mario sat. Because if you remember back then, he was coming off of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they were, even all the way back, that was in the 90s, they were managing his load back then. And we went on a night then we still got to see Ron Francis, still got to see Jaromir Jagr, still got to see Brett Hull, all that. But, back in those days, Mario Lemieux was the show.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I know how much Lulu loves Jason Tatum. But the Boston Celtics' goal is to win an NBA title.
Absolutely.
It's not to make sure Lulu Park killed.
No, I know. You're exactly right.
And, if these teams think that these players need a night off,
they're going to
get them ready for
you're
the
exactly
stretch
right.
of the playoffs. They're going to take a night off. And, yes, it sucks that you bought tickets and they're expensive.
I agree.
Your kid is crushed, but
It's investment management, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it
girls
is.
can speak differently because they, a little eras gone bygone. They didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
They didn't do that unless
No.
there was an injury.
No.
They didn't take off
They didn't.
just for these load management
like,
games.
Like you said, $40 million. They didn't invest $40 million in
No.
players so he could play every single game. They invested $40 million to get them.
But nobody,
True.
in Barkley's day, the money was probably, if you do at the time frame, and the money was probably an equivalence kind of thing. But I mean, all I can think of, Jordan never made more than the last year he played in the NBA. I think he only made 28, and he was Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So the money's, granted, that's inflation and cost of living, the whole thing. I mean, I get all that, but yeah, I mean, it's investment management. I mean, it is risk reward. We're in this to win a championship, and if that means we got to sit a couple guys at the end, then that means we're going to sit a couple guys at the end. I don't look to see. I don't think I'm going to see Marcus Smart.
Who's a Hall of Famer, but maybe in his latter days, and nobody seems to really want him on the team.
Westbrook,
excuse me, $50 million.
Yeah.
$50 million, and we're trying to find a team that'll absorb you.
Westbrook is like Kyrie Irving. I mean, it doesn't matter what team you put them on; they're going to be great for about a season, and then they can't hide the impulse. They don't have the impulse control to hide the. Well, my mama's told me I was great since I was 5 years old, and I'm great. So, and that's kind of the the thing with looking at everything, and it's not just the NBA, it's Major League Baseball, it's going to be the NFL, it is going to be professional soccer and football in
we talked
Europe.
about this a few weeks ago about all the records that are out there, and the one that probably we think will never fall. And
This
that's,
is
and that's
Ripken.
Cal Ripken. Because
Absolutely.
nobody wants it.
No.
Nobody wants that record, and management won't let them chase that record because that's an insignificant record compared to the rest of the picture.
It ain't what they want you to have. Like I it's funny, we're talking about stats, and I saw one the other day that was really cool, and it was a Henry Aaron stat, and it was like you take away the 755 home runs, and he still has 3,300 and something hits.
Yeah.
We're in a generation now that we're not going to see that kind of hitter. I mean, a guy like Mike Trout, maybe, Bryce Harper has the potential to kind of be the. I mean, we've got a handful of guys that have the potential to be those guys. But for the most part, you're either going to be a 40-40 home run guy or you're going to be a base hit average guy. And if you're a base hit average guy, I don't know that you're going to have a place in the league very long because they want that long ball.
And I saw the projected batting champion this year,
Mm-hmm.
299. That's it.
Well, but Scott, and there's some guys that are in the Braves organization that could hit 25, 35 points higher, but they're all chasing 25 home runs.
That's what
so I'm gonna hit 240. But I'm gonna try to get 25 home runs, and they're really not a 25 home run guy, really. But they sacrifice their batting average so bad just to get that many fly balls.
Because 25 to 30 home runs get you a bigger, fatter contract with that team or somebody else because they'll pay for power.
Yes, that's right.
Well, and in Major League Baseball, it's guaranteed money. So
25 to 30 home runs, 80 to 90 yards.
You get yourself that guaranteed contract is
30.
I mean, give me. I'm gonna tell you right now. If I was a Major League Baseball player right now, I don't know who Bobby Bonilla's agent was at the time of all his mess, but I would be. But here's one. I don't know if you guys both knew this.
He has the ability to defer that money.
He's got another one for.
He's got two teams paying him.
The Mets and the Orioles.
Yeah, the Orioles are paying him to like what 2040 or something crazy.
Somewhere you got to pat him on the back for saying, you know what, I'm going to be different
Yeah.
in that era. I'm not going to.
I don't need the money now. Give it to me later.
I do think I need it then.
After all my ex-wives and kids have spent all my money, I need something coming in retirement. I mean, so I was talking about
playing golf, watching golf this weekend, had a chance. This is one of those rare weekends on the PGA Tour when you get two tournaments. You had the Puerto Rico Open going on, obviously, in Puerto Rico. Pretty sure they don't play that like in Jamaica or anything. And then you also had the Bay Hill, or now it's the Arnold Palmer Invitational, but, it's at Bay Hill. And there was it was yesterday, I believe it happened. I saw it on Instagram earlier. And there was a player that it's the par 3 down the stretch. I think it's like 16, 15, something like that. It's where the water jets in and the green kind of sits there to the side. And the guy puts one in the water, backs it off the green into the water with the first one. So he goes up to the drop zone and holes out the drop. So he makes a par. So basically, call it a hole in 3, I guess. But he does that. But you had. The best of the best were out there at Bay Hill. I mean, Rory was out there. I mean, you had all JT was played pretty prominently most of the week. A lot of them are setting up to which is what is coming up is one of my absolute favorite tournaments, and I'll watch it from bell to bell, and that is the Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass down in Ponte Vedra. To me, that is the second most beautiful golf course on the PGA Tour behind Augusta National.
And I told you I just rode through there. I did
man.
I did not exactly see the
gorgeous,
course, but I know I rode by it.
Well, you won't see that one. I mean, that's the stadium course. They hide that one's hid, like in the, it's on the back of the facility where I don't even think you can see it from the road or anything. It's pretty, and it's gradually went up over the years. I think 25 years ago, you could go down there and play that course for like $115, and now I think it's like $350 for the 18 holes. And I do remember back in the day hearing the stories that they would warn you about the alligator that lived in the pond by 18. And he had a name. His name was like Earl or something. I mean, they had named him, and he would, they'd be like, you get out there on 18, tee off, Earl's probably going to be laying up there sunning himself. Now, he won't bother you, but you'll see him over there to the side. This big old daggum gator that literally like 10 foot long.
I had a marshal at a course in Hilton Head tell me that one time.
Mm-hmm.
He said, now, if you see an alligator on the course, just don't bother them, and then they won't bother you. I said, well...
That's a theory.
Okay, let's say they come after me. What am I supposed to do? Oh, they won't come after you. I said, let me rephrase this. Because you apparently didn't catch it the first time.
Yeah. If
they do.
Run.
He said, run in a zigzag pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, because they can't change directions.
And sure enough, we hit one over in the woods, and the guy was looking for his ball, and all of a sudden we turned around, and he's like 5 feet from an alligator. Alligator didn't even care.
No, they care less. They're used to people.
Yeah.
They see people all the time. And what
we had one of them crawl across the road as we were trying to drive to go to dinner and just laid there.
Just to look at you like, hey, what's up? What most people don't realize, though, is for that first like 15 feet, they can move the equivalent of like 60 miles an hour for like the 15 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, bam, they can be.
That's why I was asking.
They can be on you in a hurry. I mean, now they can't, they can't run very fast or anything afterwards. And of course, the last thing in the world you want to be is approached in water. But, we've seen them for years.
They got a pretty good 40 time.
Yeah.
They're shuttling.
Alligators are the offensive linemen of the reptile kingdom.
Got a good 40, but can't catch nothing.
If you can get them flipped on their back,
get on their back, they're fine.
And rub their stomach, they think they're dead.
Well, you can hold you can physically hold their mouth shut if you can get a hold of it. Yeah. They don't have the strength to lift it, but they.
Y'all guys have explored this way too deep.
No,
I played around. I'm telling you, man.
It's like y'all are prepared for.
I played a lot of golf in South Georgia and Florida, and seen them tons. I've seen them as small as 3-4 feet long, and I've seen them as big as what looked like 10-12 feet. And I mean, when you go play South Georgia, Middle Georgia, any of the places where you would normally see gators, the gators aren't what you got to worry about. Because typically, if you can see the gators, you're in an area that's warm enough where you're going to see the eastern diamondbacks, and those are the ones that'll mess you up. Yeah. And if you see the signs that literally, I mean, like some of those Florida courses, there will be a sign that says, if you hit your ball down in here, count a stroke and go on. And a friend of mine told me a story one time of he saw one of those signs and looked down in this crevice, and there was literally he said, man, I'm telling you, if there wasn't 1,000 golf balls down there, I'm not sitting here. And he said, I thought about taking a step, and he said, I heard a ball land in there, and it pissed off the rattlesnakes, and I heard them, for just a second, and yeah.
This is getting off subject, but why?
Go ahead.
Why wouldn't a course, take action, and pay somebody to come eliminate that.
Oh, I know
They try.
There's one around
They
here.
try.
I mean, why would you let that?
Was it Canyon Ridge before it became Macklemore? There was some course. I remember they had some people out there that were rounding up rattlesnakes.
Lafayette has copperheads like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I mean, they're.
You need to know that.
Oh,
Me and y'all are walking.
my son was 10 foot from one during the region tournament last year. He said, "Hey, Dad, he literally is coming up one of the fairways," and I walked out to see him. I said, "Hey, how's everything going?" He goes, "Man, you should have seen that snake back there." He's like, "I didn't see it until after I hit my shot." He said, "It didn't bother none, but it was over there by the side of the water. Big old copperhead out there." I mean, that's part of that's part of playing in this area. You deal with that, but
It reminds me of a meme I saw not too long ago, and it's like if you're approached by a bear, said deliver the atomic elbow off the tree. It said run up. It said step 1, run up into a tall tree.
yeah.
2, deliver an atomic elbow. It's better to die a man's death than
I don't want no part in that.
Let's see if he
to die as a coward.
See if he can kick out of a 3 count.
I don't ever want no part of no bear, and I can tell you that right now. Well, we've got getting back on, trying to bring this back on the rails, I guess, at some point. But watched a lot of college basketball today. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You got the young man from Detroit Mercy, finished 4 points shy of
3 points.
3 points shy.
Well,
Yeah, 4 points. Yeah, 4 points. Yeah. So brought a name up. When you don't hear this name a lot when you're watching college basketball in this modern era, and there's probably a whole lot of kids that don't know who this man is, but that is Pistol Pete Maravich. And those of us of a certain age, I was not old enough to. I don't guess we were old enough to ever see him play live, because he died in like 78, 77, something like that.
No, he died in like
81,
89, 90.
Was it that late?
Yeah. Yeah,
When
but
did he
played,
quit playing?
But he played.
Because the name is very, in my era, is very well known, but I don't know how many times I watched him play.
I remember as a kid watching the movie, The Pistol.
Died in 1988.
88, okay. I mean, I remember watching the movie because they, most people don't even realize, hell, his daddy's name was Press Maravich and is literally the inventor of the press defense. But modern kids, unless you grew up a gym rat, and I can think of one or two kids around this area. The last of the Houts kids is the one that comes to mind.
Playing career ended in 1980.
So we weren't really old enough to remember having watched him play.
I might have seen a couple highlights.
I remember him. I mean, I know he played for the Hawks when they wore those god awful royal blue and green.
He was selected,
jerseys.
He was selected by the Hawks, of course, at LSU.
Yeah.
First round, number 3 overall by the Hawks. Played for the Hawks till 74. Then played with the Jazz, New Orleans / Utah until 80. And they played 1 year with the Boston Celtics.
I know he played a year with the Celtics. Well, I know that you'll go back and watch. Auerbach had some. They made some ball handling drills videos back in the day, like 30-minute segments that would get played and stuff. That Coach Auerbach of the Celtics did that with Pete.
Is it arguably to say, and you're looking up numbers there, but is it arguably to say one of the all-time greatest thought of collegiate ball players?
Yeah.
May not have become, and he's not in conversation when they bring up top 25 NBA ball players. He's not in that conversation. He may not even be in that top 50 that I recall.
He had too many injuries.
Yeah.
He wasn't the pro that he was in college, but averaged 44.2 points a game before there was a shot clock and before there was a
3-point line.
Died at the age of 40 during a pickup game in 88.
Heart condition, right?
Undetected heart
Yeah.
condition. But,
same thing that got Reggie Lewis, I believe. The same.
But listen, it's 2-time National College Player of the Year, 3-time consensus first-team All-American, 3-time SEC Player of the Year, 3-time NCAA scoring leader.
Yeah.
And freshmen didn't play back then. If he had played back then, he probably would have been 4.
Oh God! If he'd have been a freshman, his scoring record would have been absolutely unattainable.
But on the other flip side, he also hung around to complete.
He played for his daddy. I mean, he played for his daddy at LSU. I mean, it's
instead of the kids that come out.
Well,
and if they're talented, they do that.
The Pistol goes back to his style of play harkens you back to an era of point guards like Cousy and Havlicek and Jerry West, and even modern guys like John Stockton and what's the other guy from Utah that Jeff Hornacek. Just the guys that could shoot the absolute eyeballs out of it, but could handle the ball.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Pistol had swagger like your Tim Hardaway, your Allen Iverson. He had the skills that most guys in his era of the NBA, well, really just in basketball in general, didn't have. But at the same time, like Scott said, all the injuries is part of it. But at the same time, he wasn't an overly large guy either. No. When he got
6 foot, 6'1",
and in that age of the NBA, that's the age of the NBA when they could just beat the living hell out of you in the paint, and his body couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of guys that stretch of NBA lore.
Any sport out there, and we know we're on basketball here. Any sport out there, when the legends start talking about the legends, and what they think of that ball. I like to hear people talk about Larry Bird.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about his greatness, even though most of them will say he was far from the greatest athlete that stepped on the court, but he did everything better than everybody else was doing it. And I was listening to something that Dominique Wilkins was talking about the other day, that McHale hit 56 and Bird said, I'm going for 60 the next night. It just happened to be Dominique and the Hogs. And Dominique said, well, it won't happen on me, on my watch. Well, he hit 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Larry had a work ethic that I don't know that has ever been equaled. I think Jordan had it. I think LeBron has it. I think Kobe has it. I've told you guys before, and I'll share this story again because I think it's awesome. There's an NBA documentary right now. It's on Netflix, and it's about the Dream Team. They call them the Redeem Team when they came back, and it was young LeBron, young D Wade, young Chris Bosh, all of them. They convinced them all to play, and it was the first time that we won the gold medal in a few years because we had a stretch where USA basketball just kind of went haywire because everybody else in the world was catching up. And
it was like 04,
08, somewhere in that range. And so they tell the story. It was I think it was Jalen Rose telling the story. No, Chris Bosh is who's telling the story. And he says first night they're in Vegas in early practices. And he's like, they get to Vegas, and he said, it's Vegas. He goes, we're all 20-something-year-old dudes. He goes, we're going out. He said, we walk back into the hotel. He said, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And he goes, we hit the button, elevator opens up, and he goes, we're all still dressed, suits and shoes. And he said, elevator door opens, and he goes, and Kobe's standing there ready to work out. 4 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And they're all like, oh, hey, Kobe, where? And he said, hey, guys. And he doesn't say anything to him, doesn't tell him where he's going, just takes off, takes himself to the gym. Said next night, they all go out and they do the same thing. 4 o'clock, some of them come rolling in. 4 o'clock in the morning, there's Kobe in the elevator, walking out of the elevator, going to the gym. He said by the third night, LeBron was going to the gym with him. Yeah. By the fourth night, D-Wade and LeBron both were going to the gym with him. And by the fifth or sixth night, the whole team was going to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they were coming home every night, getting sleep, the whole thing. They're like, that's work ethic. That's teaching the younger guys how it is to go out there and do what it takes. And, we shared a meme on Scenic City a while back, and it said something, and I think I shared it on mine as well, and it was something to the effects of, what is it? It's something like, you have NBA All-Star dreams, but you have backyard work ethic, and that's the problem in the modern era of athletics, is that you have too many people. If Scott was a really good athlete and you and I are uncles, and Scott's doing really well, we're going to be the type that are telling him every time there ain't nobody out there on that floor that can guard you around here. Well, there's not anybody on that floor around here that can guard him. The kids he's playing against, though, are the kids all over the nation that have the exact same weight, exact same size, exact same speed, but they get up every morning and do the work that it takes to go and be great. and they go do the work in the classroom, and they make good grades, and the parents don't act like knuckleheads, and they do the stuff that they need to do. And in this era,
and
that's
there's
different.
nothing wrong with parents and friends and all that recognizing your ability to be talented, but it is something when they don't also give you that secondary advice that you're good, but to be great you got to work hard, and it won't just come naturally for you. And just because you're better than maybe everybody in town, but that's if you're going to play at the next level, that's got nothing to do with it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, oh yeah. Well, we had talk a little bit of obviously right now as we speak we have a pay-per-view going on. AEW's pay-per-view is going on right now. You got some pretty good matches that'll be going on that. The first Formula One race of the year happened this morning, or nighttime over there, but happened in Bahrain.
I was hoping for a replay later tonight, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You didn't miss anything. Max Verstappen jumped out to at one point, hit a 31-second lead on the rest of the field, and I mean it was bye-bye.
That was fun.
And it wasn't even, the biggest story from today is, what is he now? 40-something-year-old Fernando Alonso made a podium, finished third. His first podium in over 150-something races. But
didn't have a Ford 500 in it?
No, NASCAR is... my dad told me a story the other day, NASCAR-wise, and I'll share this. I thought was pretty cool. They were talking about, Kyle Busch this year is racing for Richard Childress Racing, and there was a time early in Kyle Busch's career that Kyle wrecked one of RCR's cars, and Childress got mad, and at 50-something years old or 60-something years old, whatever he was at the time, he went to Kyle Busch after the race, took his Rolex off and handed it to another guy while he was mouthing and just knocked the pee out of Kyle Busch. Well, this year when he coaxed him back out of retirement, because Rowdy had retired at the end of the season last year, and RCR coaxed him back out of retirement, and when he signed him, Richard gave him that same Rolex. He took it off his arm and gave it to him and explained to him where that Rolex had came from. And I thought that was a funny little story. But, we are... sports-wise, Scott, you are at probably your busiest time ever. I mean, we had at school the other day, because we get the emails that go around, hey, will you excuse this student for whatever. We had a golf match, a baseball game, a track meet, and a soccer game, and a tennis match, if I remember correctly. I think we had all 5 on the same day.
Yeah. Heritage had baseball, tennis, and soccer going on the other day. Lafayette's done that in the past. I know right now in North Georgia, I'm covering baseball, golf, track, tennis, soccer. Oakwood's playing middle school volleyball in the spring.
Yeah.
And the rifle teams at Lafayette and Ridgeland are
in
the state tournament.
Yeah,
I've got 7 sports going on right now, and I'm already seeing stuff about spring football.
I've been told how legit that rifle complex is at Ridgeland. Ooh. Did we ever get
state of the art, man. State of the art. Matter of fact, and they're going to be. If anybody's wanting to go by and watch it, Thursday at 2:45, they're going to be hosting Douglas County in the first round of the tournament.
Where is that geographically on that campus?
If you go around the backside, like you're going to go back in the gym,
Mm-hmm.
where the football field is, so the football field runs, alongside the parking lot. Over here on the side, where the new ag center is and stuff, that's where that
it's out there within that area.
Right there. It's indoor rifle.
But I was going to say, it's indoor.
Yeah, it's indoor.
Yeah.
They've got 12 lanes. It's computerized.
Nice.
They've got monitors on both sides with the computer images of the targets.
Are they shooting live rounds with the computer? Do they even have to shoot live rounds with the computer simulation?
They still have to shoot it.
How many other schools?
It's air rifle.
How many other schools in the state of Georgia might have that?
That kind of facility?
Yeah.
Not many.
Probably less than 15.
Not many.
Well, why did Ridgeland, Scott, take us through something that most of us don't? Why did Ridgeland decide they needed that when nobody else had that? What was the...
Carl Gentry, First Master Sergeant Carl. I forget his title, so forgive me. But he's the coach over there. He's one of the guys that's over the ROTC program, and they've only had a program for about 7 or 8 years now. I think the ROTC team was shooting, and then they just decided to have a regular team. Lafayette has had a team for a while, and they've done pretty well. And then Ridgeland just kind of took off, and it's really, it's known. They've named it after Carl Gentry. And,
somebody decided that the funding for this
he's took advantage of a bunch of stuff. They have grants that are given by Midway USA and some other organizations that they match donations and stuff like that. They got a huge grant a few years back, tens of thousands of dollars to help build that facility. They've brought in people that have painted on the inside.
Yeah, but the potential of
they have a basically a gun safe where they store all the equipment.
The potential of that facility, though, with I'm sure that there are outside school, there are other schools that contact them, once Ridgeland season, which I know they're really good at what they do, but if their season's over with, there's probably, GHSA probably reaches out and says, hey, you guys got the best facility around. Can we,
a lot, they just did the Area 10 championships, and it was at Cartersville High School, and it's in the gym. they set up the targets down there, and they have
that's nothing like what they have.
It's nice. But it is a small area.
Yeah.
It's not huge. You can't get hundreds of people in there. They could probably comfortably seat about 20 to 25.
No, but you could probably get if it got to a point, you could be looking at like what I don't know if I've even mentioned this to you yet this year, but if like the scoring system that we have this year with golf for GHSA is that we have a system, Wanamaker. The company, that's iwannamaker.com, is the company, have come out with a system that we're all using. It's a phone app. All my boys carry their cell phone in their pocket, and they score someone in their foursome, not themselves. And then as a parent, you can pay, a yearly of like $10 or something, or you can pay like a 99-cent per meet, kind of like Game Changer, and you can track at any given time. You can pop up and show, and I, as the coach, don't have to walk around the way I normally would. I still do, obviously, because I can't leave it alone, but I can pull my phone up at any given time and look and see, or if one of my boys has a rule question, they can send a thing, and me or the other coach of the other team can get a notification, and we try to get out there to that hole to make sure that we help them with a rule.
I know this range, like I said, there's 2 big monitors on either side of it, and it's like in a grid. It's like 6 squares, and you see the target, and when the kid shoots, it immediately registers up there on the target. It shows where they've hit it and stuff like that, and it shows like where all the other hits
instantaneously.
And they've all got computerized sights. They can sit there while they're laying down doing that, and they can check the sights and stuff like that.
Is this room half the size of a gymnasium? How big are we talking?
About the size of what we're in right now.
Yeah, but it's extended, obviously, because you got to have room to shoot and stuff like that.
Half the size of the
door to door, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit bigger, but then you have to extend it out, for the shooting.
Well, it's definitely very unique because I'm sitting here asking you who's got one, anything like that, and you're saying nobody in our area.
Nobody around here has got one that I'm aware of has one.
Well, and they just
the yard. It's pretty. It's got all the bells and whistles.
Ridgeland's got a nice facility. They just they just turfed the baseball field. The AT&T, the classic that they do every year. The Children's Classic got moved to Ridgeland because of the turf.
Softball field. Turf's going on in the softball
I
field.
think it's a matter of. I think it's a matter of time. I think 15 years from now, you look forward at 10 to 15 years from now, and there won't be a school probably in the state of Georgia that doesn't have turf on all their facilities just because of the practicality of it.
Well, I'm proud for Richland because I have commented on that now for a long time. It seems like about the degree of difficulty that they start the season out trying to get on the field at all. at all. And when you when you're the team in the area that don't take infield and outfield because we can't get on it.
Yeah.
I mean, but now we got to go play 7, 8, 9 ball games before we can get back to it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's a disadvantage. So of all the schools that I can tell you that definitely needed turf, it was Ridgeland's baseball field.
And I'll say from seeing now games on both Lafayette and Ridgeland's turf field, that ball when it's hit and it bounces, man.
Coming at you, ain't it?
Yes, it is bouncing hard and fast and high. There ain't no little hitting and dying and raw.
So you're telling me the last position you want to play at Ridgeland right now is third base?
Anywhere
that hot corner is way hotter than it is everywhere else.
I saw a kid down at the Lafayette game a couple weeks ago, fouled one off down first base line, and I mean that thing. I mean it was like the first base coach. It was like going over his head.
But when Ringo had their field redone after the storm, and the guy did a tremendous job with that field, and there was a opportunity to put turf down at that moment, and Coach Tucker, who was over the baseball program there, was a purist, and he just I think didn't want it. But when you go back
I can see people not wanting it because it does change the game.
It does change the game, but think about I can think about when Macaulay has been playing on most days that most schools are not playing because it sprinkled at 10:30 in the morning, or it even rained hard the day before, and we still can't get out there and play.
And those fields drain like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit. So, but I still wonder sometimes, as pretty as Ringo's field is, Bill Womack field down there in beautiful downtown historic Ringo, that wouldn't be nice to not have to worry with turf management all the time.
just the aspect of you take. I know the person that mows our football field in the summertime, and they mow that field at least twice a week, sometimes 3 if it rains a lot. Because if you don't stay on top of it, you can't mow it. I mean,
it's a full-time job.
Yes, I mean,
and the practice field.
And there ain't nowhere in this area at any school that pays the guy mowing the field what he deserves to be paid for mowing that field, because it is a nonstop job. And you look at, if you put turf on all those fields, just the fuel savings alone.
Well, Mary Ockus and them.
Not to mention paint.
The paint, because you paint it one time a year and you're done with it.
And of course,
touch it up here and there.
Mary Ockus and them had that argument of when they put in the football field down at Ridgeland, and again another field at Ridgeland, that you couldn't get away from not doing it.
You remember that year we went? You remember that year me and you and me and Malibu Dave went over there and covered that Friday night Ridgeland Ringo game. Martez Eastland was still and I mean I remember you could see them kids. I remember when they brought the coaches to midfield to decide whether or not to keep that game going, and I swear to God, it looked like Akins wasn't wearing shoes.
It
looked like he was marred up to his ankles.
Oh, I had the mud grab one of my shoes one time, and I took a step and it came right out of it.
Yep.
Scott, and it's kind of that field just kind of dissolved in a hurry.
Well,
it wasn't doing that, and then all of a sudden it was.
It's on a hill on one side and a hill on the other, and the water just pooled up. There was nowhere for it to go.
Bowled in the middle.
But I remember when that field was being talked about, and it was, and Coach Mariakis at the time made the presentation to the school board. He's like, it's going to cost us, I think it was $250,000 at the time. And he said, for that price, the turf people can come out, the grass people can come out, they can fix the drainage issues, and we might get to play all 10 games, and we might have 10 more events on this field, but it's not going to necessarily solve much of the problem. For the same price, we can put turf out there. We save everything on gas. We don't have to water the field.
Yep.
We don't have to mow the field. We don't have to paint the field. And we can have it as multiple times, as many events on the
It was a no-brainer.
How many
why are we even
there's you. I mean, how many gallons of water a year do you save not having to water that field?
I mean, next week,
it's hundreds of thousands of
dollars. Yeah.
Scott, the very next week, as bad as that field was that night, and it was atrocious, but the very next week, Ridgeland's in a playoff game, and it has to be down at Finley because the field still hadn't healed.
Do you remember the year that before Gordon Lee got turf. I remember the one year, Gordon Lee's in the damn playoffs, and they brought helicopters down there to try and hover at low level to try to get some of the water out of that field. I mean, that's the crux of the whole situation is all you're trying to do is get play. You're not trying to be a prima donna. You're not, so and so's got turf, we need turf too. You're trying to make it to where you don't lose games because of bad weather.
Let me say this: the texture of the turf at Lakeview is better than it was 15, 20 years
and
ago.
And that field drains well because of the crown and
But just when Ringo got theirs done. And there was no way they couldn't do that because there was glass and all kinds of stuff on that field. But it needed it already.
Oh, yeah.
And Lakeview's did too. Because I used to remember late in the year, maybe about game 6 or 7, the middle of Lakeview's field skint.
Yep.
Now, it's better than it used to be.
Yep, it is.
But again, that football field
You'll still see it. You'll still see it. And and that's the thing too. Heritage.
And it's coming. Y'all have it.
Oh, we'll have it. I think Heritage will too. I think
I thought Heritage had when it was first built. I thought that Heritage had one of the nicest natural turf fields. But when I saw a rain set in on them late in a playoff game, and that field get that bad, I felt sorry for Heritage having to play on that thing.
I remember that Lakeview. The Lakeview Heritage game, the first year that we went over there as Scenic City.
In the storm?
In the storm.
We decided to come back out at 12:30.
Scott wound up in his car, till like midnight or something.
Waiting for someone to tell me that, hey, we're going to play or not.
Yeah.
I finally said yes.
That was...
I had already made it home.
That was my son's... He was a 7th grader playing in the marching band that year, and I remember going to that game. And of course, the band, decided pretty quickly, "Hey, we're out of here." I mean, thousands of dollars worth.
We signed up.
Yeah, thousands of dollars worth of instruments. We're not taking any chances. But
that's the same night that Red Bank and
that was Red Bank and South Pitt. Yeah,
decided to call it quits. It was everywhere. It was all over town.
Speaking of Ridgeland, I guess I should mention this. The Ridgeland High School Athletic Hall of Fame has announced its 2023 induction class for their Hall of Fame banquet on May 26th.
I wish every school did that.
This is 4th time they've done this. This year's Hall of Fame class includes Mark Mariakis, Chris Seckinger, Mike Bowman, Jeremy Brotherton, Kendall Bruning, Princess Carson, Terrell Freeman, and Brian Patterson. Of course, the late Brian Patterson, who passed away a little more than a year ago. So
I forgot about that.
Congratulations. We know all those folks.
Saw JB I saw JB not even a month or so ago.
I haven't seen JB. Congratulations.
I saw him a couple days ago, but
that's a good group of guys there.
Mariakis.
That's a good class right there.
Princess, that's all.
We mentioned Ringo earlier. I did want to mention Ross Norman, who has signed with Georgia State University, so he's going to be a Division I baseball player. No-hit Calhoun the other day on the road.
I saw that. I didn't know who did it, though.
11-0 over
I'll tell y'all.
Calhoun. And congratulations, before we forget, Notre Dame High School making it all the way
Jonathan
to the
Adams.
state championship game for the first time in school history in basketball.
One of our all-time favorite people to go cover, no matter what.
Well, I mean, again, a little bio on him. Ringo Middle up to Baylor, on to
Old Dominion. And lest we forget, his mama was a hell of an athlete back in the day.
Yep. NC State.
Yeah.
Now, I was having a conversation, and guys, you may not remember these names, and it's hard to think. You're going to think, what's he been drinking tonight? When I say that Ringo could have competed, if not possibly won, a state championship in basketball game. But let me give you those names.
Oh,
had they
I know where you're going.
Yeah,
we owned the team. We got point guard Coppage.
Yep.
Who had come back from Baylor, if I'm not mistaken, Scott. Sam Coppage, who was quick.
You had Jeremy Lumpkin.
You had Jeremy Lumpkin. You had Ford.
Zach Ford.
The two that had gotten away from you was one Jonathan Adams,
and
Marcus Jones. Now, to tell
Marcus
you,
Jones, who went on to play football at Duke.
And get drafted,
Quarterback,
drafted in majors. But now think about that, guys. That would have been your starting five,
and you
that
would have
in there, Scott, maybe with Atlanta.
But you would have also had Anthony Lumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been on that team as well, because if you did a 4-year span, you could take you could work that out however you wanted to work. But if you worked that out just right, that team was loaded.
And
it would have ran roughshod over North Georgia like nobody up here could have.
I'm telling you, it sounds silly to say.
No, it does not.
But if you know those kids, and the two that got away were extremely talented. And they were part of that middle school. It
would have been one of the most talented basketball teams that this area had seen.
Arguably, you could say that. I just gave you 5 good ball players.
I firmly believe that one of the best basketball teams I ever saw in this area was the Red Bank team that Coach Cherney had up there when he had Tim Benford, Dominic McDuffie, Jeremy Caldwell. All those guys were on that basketball team. The problem with that basketball team is it would de-escalate into you did that? Well, watch this. Instead of just going out there and playing in that one heartbeat moment.
Well, Lumpkin played the paint.
Yeah.
And he did that as well as anybody.
Oh, he was dominant down there.
6'3". But again, had Jonathan been there, and now Jonathan can play playing the paint at 6'5". Lumpkin, but I'm gonna tell you something.
If your low 3 is Lumpkin, Jones, and
you're talking
Adams,
about 2'6'3", and a 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah,
that can that all. Can
and then them 2
college
guards they had shooting threes on the outside.
They can all play college ball
to
some level. Now that's hard. That's hard to get sometimes, except out of the Atlanta metro area. And Scott, how many times has that Atlanta metro area got a state championship because they got one All-American out there?
Yeah, but now's the case where they've got 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and they've all got kids that are 6'8", 6'9".
But if we go retro into that, I mean, you're talking about those guys all went through at Ringgold. What that was around 04, 05, somewhere in that range. 03, 04. Yeah. I mean, you're talking the tail end. I'm thinking in Kentucky terms. So I mean, you're talking the last few years of the Tubby Smith era. So just out of the state of Georgia, you're talking about Jamal Crawford. You're talking about Randolph Morris. That were in. Those guys were like at Greater Atlanta Christian, and I mean, there was some guys coming out of Georgia at that time.
Ringo had to play Southwest DeKalb.
Yeah,
that's right. In that first round, and got beat by about 20.
Yeah, I mean, there were some guys coming out of, but I mean, with that group of talent, they could have hung. I mean, I definitely think that they could have hung.
Yeah, having all 5 of those, maybe.
But you would have had a deep bench too, though. If you'd have had some of those kids that we knew that came around that same area, you would have had the bench would have been.
I didn't say for sure they'd win a state championship, but that's contend, and that sounds odd to say a Ringo to any North Georgia team in basketball could.
Those of us at LFO will argue that how good would we have been this year if JaMychal Davis stays. With what we had coming back and what we had coming up as freshmen, and there's people at our middle school that'll tell you that our 8th grade team coming up from that middle school about to join the high school team, that we're going to be stacked for a year or two, but we'll see. I mean, a lot of times the transition from middle school to high school, we've watched it. How many years have we watched it like in football? We got a team like Gordon Lee or Ringgold that just goes out there and tears it up at middle school ball, and it don't necessarily always translate.
Well, it turns into 2 and 8 in high school.
Well, because, I mean, it's just...
Because they don't always develop. They don't always stay together. And some of those times... you're beating your chest a little bit because you were the middle school that was twice the size of everybody else's middle school.
And your 8th graders playing against 8th graders.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you come up and you're freshmen playing against grown men that are juniors and seniors.
Well, go back to that Ringgold team a few years back. I mean, that was the 8th grade team that won the conference championship up here and looked pretty good doing it.
Scott Ringo's had numerous 8th grade teams.
And then the next year, they had to go out there and they had to play high school because of all the injuries and everything else. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't pretty. But
they grew up.
Yeah, some kids peak in middle school. I remember a kid I won't say where he's from, not here super locally, but he was a dominant force in middle school. And he already had the physique, but he never got any bigger. And when he got to high school, he was nothing special.
Senior year.
I remember nobody could
seen that.
I remember a kid that I will absolutely not name his name, but when I start describing this kid, you guys are going to know who I'm talking about right off the top of our head. But I mean, I remember a kid that we watched grow up playing on the basketball court from the time he was 8 or 9 years old, and he was head and shoulders the best kid on the floor. And then he got to middle school and afterwards, and everybody else grew and he didn't.
Yeah.
Now he coaches in the area now, and he gives back to the game, and he's a great young man. I saw him not too long ago. But that's a kid right there that if he grew when everybody else grew, he had the ability.
Yeah.
He just didn't have the size. Yeah. The old thing, you hear all the basketball scouts, they say it all the time. I can teach a kid how to shoot. I can teach a kid how to dribble the ball. I can't teach 6'9".
No.
I can't teach 7'1". I can teach all that other stuff. I can't teach size. And unfortunately,
and some people get a late growth on that, and
they
turn
do
into the superstar that their high school didn't even believe they could.
Look at Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, as a freshman and sophomore, played point guard. Actually, I think all the way up to his junior year, he played point guard, and then in between junior and senior year, shot up to like 6'11".
David Robinson.
Yeah.
Went in the Naval Academy as a 5'10" freshman.
Right.
That story right there is crazy.
7'1".
That one's crazy. Of all the stories about people height growing, that one there's just.
But if you
after high school, that's.
But how many terrible 7-footers have we seen in the NBA have a career for multiple years because they're just a big ass body in the middle? Yeah. Sean Bradley, anyone? Manute Bol, World Be Free, Yao Ming.
Your World Be Free.
Now Yao Ming was pretty darn good basketball.
Well, he developed, but most of those guys that are Yao Ming got
some size to him too.
But he got a chance because he was 7 foot tall.
Bradley Ball, they were.
What's the old boy? What's the old El Gigante? Whatever his real name was, but
5'7",
Oh yeah, but supposed to come be the savior of the.
7'7".
One of my high school teachers played against him in Argentina.
I saw him when he was a wrestler in a.
Boy, Taker don't have anything nice to say about him.
At a motel when I was down there when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
It was the
when he was still with WCW.
Yeah, they had a group that hung out this particular motel, and it was out near the airport. And he's standing out there by a sedan, and the roof is at his waist.
Well,
I'm looking at him saying, I don't know how he's getting in that vehicle.
Well, when I was a senior in high school, I take that back. I put off taking foreign language till I absolutely had to have it to finish my college prep seal. So as a senior, I'm taking Spanish 2, which I'm glad that I waited now because as a result of that, I got Jerry Bourne as my teacher. And Jerry Bourne, one of the Bournes that everybody in Ringgold, the basketball family, and Jerry was 6'5", 6'6", big guy. Jerry played at Davidson. UTC fans remember he's the one that hit the dagger that knocked UTC out of the Southern Conference tournament. For Davidson, great basketball player. So
really great UTC
played, yeah. So he played professional ball in Argentina and in Portugal. And he told a story one time. We were Bobby Davis, that was just announced as our new assistant principal, was in this class, and he goes, "Hey Bobby, come here for a minute." He gets Bobby up out of class, and he stands behind him like he's guarding him because we were talking about biggest guys he'd ever played against, and we brought up, well, what about El Gigante? And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Let me tell you about playing against that guy." And he's like, imagine, and he brings Bobby up. Bobby was a pretty good-sized kid, and he goes, "Look at how I tower over Bobby." And we're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Now put broomsticks on the end of my arms." And he goes, "That's what it was like playing against that guy." He said, in pregame, we get ready to go shake the guy's hand. He said, we can see him on the other end of the floor warming up and stuff, and we're all thinking, yeah, whatever. And he said, we get to do the pregame handshake, and he goes, as this guy makes his way to center court, he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until he finally gets there, and at 7'7", he's like, you're not talking NBA talent. He said, yeah, we were professional basketball players, but we weren't NBA level. And he's like, shooting around that guy was like going around a red oak tree in the middle, or a redwood tree. I mean, just a tower of a human being.
Had a kid a couple years back that was 7'5".
Well, I mean, remember.
Who's got one that's 7'4"?
What was
is Taco Fall still playing for the
Celtics? Big country. Bryant Reeves. Remember him? I mean, another guy, 7 foot tall, couldn't jump.
Vancouver Grizzlies.
Couldn't jump over a phone book, but wound up a first round draft choice because he's 7 foot. Yeah. I mean, well, guys, obviously that is that's a hard and fast hour that we came in here and we knocked out. Plan on 7:30 being our optimum time for the next few weeks at least until the end of the school year, till I get through golf season and Scott gets through the murderer's row of sports reporting. But
he's got a ways.
He does. We appreciate you guys being on with us. We appreciate y'all taking the time to listen with us. If you got anybody out there that needs some help getting their name out there, please tell them to give us a call. We're more than happy to help. Also, want to take a real quick. You got any kids out there that are interested in swimming? Swim season is about to get going in the Chattanooga, North Georgia area. Check out the Catoosa Great White Sharks. My kids have swam for them now for multiple years. Great organization, very well run. Give them a look. We've saved all the links and stuff on sceniccitysports.com, so give them a chat. Also, make sure you patronize all the people that make it possible for us to bring Scenic City Sports to you guys on a weekly basis. All our all-star sponsors, beginning none, right there at the top at our title sponsor, Gary Thacker Insurance. All the people that take care of us, take care of you. Guys, we love you. We are happy to have you with us, and we'll catch you again next week.